I taught my in-laws to play DC20. Stick around and I'll tell you how I did it. Spoiler! It was awesome, and I think they're coming back this Friday for another session. Editing Tori here, they were going to, but I got sick and I canceled on them. I'm not sure when we'll do the next session, but we are going to do one. The inspiration. So I started with this huge inspiration from this Ginny D video. Back when it came out, I was so intrigued by the approach and the idea of teaching someone a new TTRPG this way, and my in-laws are already fond of basic table games like Sequence, Forbidden Island, and card games like trick-taking games. I thought, why not bring them into our world a little bit? Why not teach them to play a tabletop RPG instead? Now, I've taught a fair number of people to play D&D, usually very poorly, or at least I know now I could have done it much better. I'm so sorry, Theodora. That is to say, when you teach someone, you don't want to give them a blank character sheet and say, have fun. They'll be overwhelmed and they'll kind of miss the actual point of the game. So for more bullet points on how to actually introduce them and to start my paper planning, I used the template from this How to Be a Great GM video from 4 years ago. In it, his comedy is not only great, but he actually walks you through a simple setup that introduces the role play and then elements like introduction and combat. For the longest time, I used his adventure in there for my plan, but I did end up dropping it in favor of a different one later on. Then, I was sort of re-inspired when this most recent Ginny D video on how she taught D&D to her grandmother came out. Side note, how freaking awesome is that, by the way? Like, now she has this footage and memories of this moment to always cherish, and she showcases something that I think is really special and kind of important. Like, our grandparents and family might be more on board than we think to join us in our hobbies. A lot of times I just assumed older folks who'd never played would not be interested or not get it or such. Then my grandma really surprised me one day by playing Breath of the Wild with me. Like, I did the controls part, but she participated with me with ideas, questions, and telling me things like, try this or try that, and it created very fond memories. Just saying, our grandparents might be cooler than we think. I think we just need to ask. End of side note. So between all three of these resources, I had my new plan of attack. I used the card idea that me and Ninja tossed around in the Discord way back in October. And I created 3 race cards and 3 class cards. This allowed mom and dad to pick their character, aka have investment in their character. And it made the process simplified and the reference more visually available. It works well for them as they know info cards from House on Haunted Hill and other games, so they already get that concept. 2, I asked them to name their characters. This gets them in the mindset of thinking creatively after they just picked from that menu of race and class. Mom picked an elf rogue named Anastasia, Steve picked a human warrior named Malcolm, and Dad picked an elf wizard named Tim. 3. As mentioned, I had been using the adventure presented by How to Be a Great GM, but I fell in love with the ideas I saw in that first Ginny D video so much instead that I did a sort of recreation of it, but filling it in with all my own details. In that video, I don't think she explicitly says what adventure she takes them on, but I sort of weaved together a mini-venture based on the scenes I saw, just because I liked it so much better. The adventure I went with was them needing to rescue a missing cook from a tavern. I borrowed from that Ginny D video, along with the quest in Skyrim Thieves Guild where there's a hole in the cellar. My idea was that the cook went through the hole in the cellar. I started them in the tavern, like you do, but mentioned that they were waiting a long time for food. When they asked the waitress, she told them that you should subscribe to the channel. Okay. But when they asked the waitress, she told them that the cook was missing, and so the adventure would go from there. So for the dice and combat and such, because of the mechanics of DC20, I don't need to introduce them to lots of dice. They really only need 1. So I made a simplified action card with basic actions and kept it behind the screen until combat started. Any skill checks were done with just the core stats on their card. For example, the wizard wanted to look around, so he rolled and I told him to add his intelligence. In fact, Steve also took the opportunity to showcase his thinking outside the box with skills for them too. See, at one point, Steve wanted to look around, but as a warrior, he didn't have a high int. But then he asked if he could use might instead, to which I said no, but then he explained that he'd actually be looking around by physically moving the boxes out of his way, and doing this I allowed him to use his might. It was just a great way to showcase using a different skill to accomplish the same results. So for combat, I wish I had done this a tad bit better. In my defense though, Mom was really gung-ho through all of this. Like, she would say things like, I run up and I stab him and I kill him. Is he dead? Which got us into AP head first. But I love her enthusiasm. So even still, after just about 2 rounds, they already had the basics down, including the spending AP to get advantage and negate disadvantage. For the maps and tokens, I used this newfangled trick I recently learned with Owlbear and casting, actually. Ever since running my first online game and using Owlbear Rodeo, I cannot go back. It's free, it's easy, it's convenient, it lays out the map, it allows players to interact, it's just kind of perfect for me. Because I don't have the means nor time to do some of those big TV monitor gaming table setup things, and I definitely don't have the money to buy one. However, I do have a Samsung tablet. So Samsung tablets have this feature called second screen, wherein my Windows laptop that I dug out of hibernation for this can connect to my Samsung wirelessly and use it like a second monitor. I then use Owlbear casting to put a cast of the battle map onto my tablet. And the second screen feature allows touch input, so players can actually move their tokens on this shared sort of board. And yes, the tab is small, but so is my table space. Considering the size of the table and the proximity of the players, it's almost the right size. Now, I did order a portable 18-inch screen that's the same thickness as my tablet to put it on the table instead for a battle map. It's powered by a cable, so there's no battery issues. It also gets the signal through the cable, so there's no Wi-Fi issues. It's as thin as a tablet, it's cheap, it's the right size for visibility, but not so big like a TV where it's too big. Editing Tori here, but the monitor has come in since time of writing, and it is awesome. It works great, it has power and runs HDMI signal through one USB-C cable, so no cables everywhere. And Owlbear casting is set up in just 2 clicks. I can fully recommend this setup if, like me, you enjoy the ease of digital maps and tokens over physical maps and minis. And yes, we actually do use Theater of the Mind at my table often, but sometimes we just like having minis for big fights. And no, none of this is sponsored in any way. I don't have sponsors and I don't monetize. Now, the screen is not touch input, and I ordered it before learning about my Samsung tablet trick, and honestly, I'm tempted to just stick with the tablet alone because it means players can actually move their pieces, but the screen is bigger. Or I may go with these printed cutouts I did with these 99-cent plastic stands and use the portable monitor as just the map, and we can move the minis around on the map at scale, so there's lots of options. I mention this because when introducing new people to the game, I want them to get a taste of both sides, of both Theater of the Mind and maps and minis. In the beginning, in the tavern, it was all Theater of the Mind, and it would be, as it's just NPC interactions and them getting familiar with imagining a world and moving within it. The battle map came in later though, so they could see, feel, experience the tactical side of the two with physical tokens and that they could move themselves. It was very akin to the board games they were already used to playing. So putting this whole plan together, I can cover the core concepts of playing a TTRPG with them in sort of bite-sized chunks, and oh my gosh, look at the time. Yikes. I may have to tell the story of this session next video, so tell me what you think, and tell me if you want the story version for next video. I hope you found this informative and at least entertaining, and maybe even inspiring to go teach someone that you know a new TTRPG, and I will see you all next time.